Welcome to Latino Focus, the show that honors the presence of the Latino community here in Silicon Valley. Today in our show, we talk with Isabel Duron to learn more about her leading organization, Latinas Con Cancer. Later, in our flavor segment, we will show you how to make a traditional Venezuelan arepa with Chef Fernando Lezama. And to cover our Arts Alive segment, we invited visual artist Tulio Flores to talk about his art and inspirations. All this next on Latino Focus. Adelante. Isabel, thank you for joining us in Latino Focus today. Your personal story has such many lives in the community, and I understand that this was the base for starting Latinas Con Cancer. For those who don't know, would you share with us your personal cancer story and how you got started with Latinas Con Cancer?
Okay, but first of all, thank you very much, Nancy, for inviting me. It's so fun to be on this program, so it was how wonderful to do this for the community. My personal story actually goes back about 16 years when I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I had two thoughts when the doctor said to me, Isabel, this is cancer. I said, okay, God, this isn't about dying. What's the point? And my second question was, I wonder if I should do a story. So what I did, because I'm a trained journalist, I did a 3-part award-winning series by turning the camera on myself, because I thought never would I get so up close and personal with such a horrific disease. And during that period of treatment, radiation and chemo, I looked around the infusion room and I said, so where are all the Latinos? Am I the only one? What's the deal, right? So during the course of my investigation, in which I looked at cancer, I looked at others in treatment, I looked at cutting edge, what was going to happen in the future for it, looking at support groups, I also realized that there was a lot of cancer in the Latino community, but that there were a whole group of people who didn't know about it, were fearful of it, had strange myth and misinformation about it, and who were late getting detected because they weren't taking advantage of screenings. And so it was about 8 months later, slightly after my treatment, that I realized, oh, this is the point. I'm supposed to be doing something with all of this information and knowledge. And that's how I kicked off my cancer journey, if you will. And Latinas Con Cancer evolved a couple of years later because I wanted not just to focus on women and not just to focus on breast cancer, because everybody thinks, they say a woman gets cancer and it's breast cancer. I didn't want to just focus there. I wanted to focus on cancer in the Latino community. And quite frankly, men are our worst customers. So I tell Latino men when I talk to them, I said, your biggest risk factor for cancer is being male, because they're so stubborn, getting them to step up to the plate, to come in early, to get those checkups, et cetera. Makes them a little more difficult to deal with. But it was that experience with cancer that really gave me knowledge, awareness, more skill sets, and I put them all together and I created Latinas Con Cancer.
Wow. And tell me more about Latinas Con Cancer, and what are the programs that are offered and the services, and how can people access them?
Latinas Con Cancer is now 12 years old. And what I wanted to do was determine what were the issues. And so in reality, it became sort of the lab. The community became the lab. I learned from them what were the issues, what were the problems, what were the needs. And as we began to address these various, we began to recognize that we were looking at the cancer continuum. That is, raising awareness, moving people into screening, if they get diagnosed with cancer, supporting them in the hospital, providing psychosocial services on the outside. And so that becomes the cancer continuum. And then what happens after the treatment is over? They don't just go home and say, that's all over. No, there is a long-term survivorship plan that one really needs to deal with long-term after effects of cancer, like me. 16 years later, I still deal with neuropathy, which is kind of a problem with your nerve damage, and it's in my feet. I still have what I call chemo brain. I could call it senior moments, but sometimes I can't quite pull that word out. So there's some memory issues. You could have problems with heart. You could have problems with your bones. You could have problems with your lungs. All of this because of the toxic treatments we're exposed to, that is radiation and drugs. So I said, we got to look and see, first of all, do they understand what it is? Are they aware? Do they know their family history? Do they know their risk? Are they doing something to diminish risk? Are they getting screened regularly? Are they getting access to good care? And so in asking those questions, we began to address the cancer continuum. So we do education in the community. and we've educated over 3,500 men, women, and children, and we use the bingo game, except for we replace the numbers with facts. And everybody loves it. We play with pinto beans, right? So we've educated over 3,500 women and men and children, gotten maybe a couple hundred screened through the screening process. We now piloted, well, not now, in 2010, we piloted the first Spanish language community navigator inside the Cancer Center. She's now been there almost 5 years, and we've navigated 415 Spanish-speaking cancer patients with 41 different kinds of cancer. We've lost about 20% of them because they had a terminal cancer. Our navigator's been to over 25 funerals. She is there 24/7. You know, they call her at midnight. Mi papá no se ve bien. She's there. You know, she's there when she's holding their hands in the last moments. She's there for the family afterwards. But we're also there for them while they go through the treatment. They come to our offices, and we provide psychosocial support for about, on average, 29 people a month. Wow. So you can see we're there. And then we promote and convene the National Latino Cancer Summit, in which we bring all of the stakeholders together. That is researchers, community members, promotoras, that is our community health educators, CBOs, community-based organizations, and the institutions interested in working with and learning more about the Latino community and cancer. And we bring them all together, and we have a summit.
And when is the summit?
Well, our next one, which is our 5th, is in about 4 months. It's in July in 2016. And this one is going to be fabulous, just fabulous. I'm so excited about it. We're looking, it's called the Cutting Edge, Genomics, Biologics, and Precision Medicine. Precision medicine is where treatment is going to go for most and many chronic diseases. In cancer, it's probably been the most advanced. And like I explained to you, you know, these days they could take a tumor, look at the cellular makeup, put it in the database, move all the numbers around based on all of these similar cancer cases, and determine if they have an actual treatment for it, as opposed to just spraying all of these drugs into you and hitting you with radiation and hoping that that's going to do the job. It can, but it also leaves you with a lot of long-term potential after effects. So this kind of thing, it targets that tumor, gets the job done, and you could even maybe say that it cures the deal. But there's still a lot of work that goes before it. And the reason why I'm excited about this summit is because our goal is to raise awareness about genetics and genetic testing, which is why we always talk about family history. Do you know your family history?
No, I do not know my family history.
Andale, shame on you. You need to know if, in fact, you know, they're just in the first couple of generations back, whether anybody's had cancer. The more your abuela, your aunt, your mother had cancer, the more at risk you might be. Breast cancer, I'm talking about. But one of the things that you need to know is, are there certain kinds of genetic traits you inherited from way back over your ancestry that might eventually put you at risk? Let me give you a simple example, and I talk on and on and on. You ask me and I'm going to tell you. I just did 23andMe because I find genetics fascinating. And it turns out I'm from everywhere. You know, 68% European, 2% African, 19% Native, 4% East Asian, a little bit of Middle Eastern, and a pinch of Scandinavian.
Wow, that's quite a mix.
Who would have thought, right? You know, I'm from everywhere, right? Well, they've done the genome of Mexico, and they say Mexicans are from everywhere because they're European, African, and Asian. But there's also a little bit of Ashkenazi Jewish, which isn't unusual because Ashkenazi Jewish, I think some of them settled in Spain, or even in Europe, because there you go, I have some Eastern European. Well, the Ashkenazi Jewish have a mutation that puts women at greater risk for breast cancer. And they say Latina women who are European descent have a greater risk because of that. On the native side, they have just shown that there are women, Mexican and Mexican-American women, who have these two genes from the native ancestry as a protective gene.
Oh, wow.
So on one hand, you might have a risk. On the other hand, you have a protection. Is that not fascinating?
Yes.
But if you don't know what your genetics are and you don't do those risk tests, you can't tell. Mm-hmm. Now, I know you have to be very careful about all of this information. You know, you don't want to be used and abused. You don't want to be a guinea pig. We know all of these things. But we do want people to be aware so they can make smart decisions about their own lives. And that is why this cutting edge kind of approach and education is hugely key to the work that we're doing.
Yes, awareness is definitely key, a resounding topic. And tell me a little bit about the Latinas Contra Cancer staff, and how do they support the different communities, and how do they work?
Well, we have a very small staff. We're all part-timers, but we all, give it ganas. We have 2 promotoras, and they're the women that go out and do our education bingo, and they work hard. We do 12, 15 bingos a year with 15 to 25 people. We just had one the other day where a man hosted it. And it was on breast cancer and the environment and how to diminish your toxic footprint in your home to diminish your breast cancer risk. And he was the one asking all the questions. So I love to get them engaged. Then we have our patient navigator who works in the hospital. And of course, I'm the one that's driving everybody crazy saying, do this, and this. And who else do we have? Oh, we're working with Georgetown University. We're on it's a 3-site education process, research process, that we're looking at breast cancer patients and their caregivers. And does that make a difference while you're going through treatment to have someone close who helps and supports you? And there are 2 other sites, one's in Washington, D.C., and then there's 2 in New York. So it's a subpopulation study, because that means we have Mexicans here, we have Central and South Americans in Washington, we have Dominicans and Puerto Ricans in New York. So it really, there are differences in these subpopulations of Latinos. And so it is really important for all of us to engage, and not just one group of us to engage in research and so on. So we are now going into the end of our 2nd year. We'll be wrapped up in June. But it's a 3-year study. It's hugely important, and it could really add to the literature of understanding the Latino belief and cultural and value system around support group and around these particular issues. We're adding to the literature.
That's great. And for the support groups, do they require any special training?
We actually get trained facilitators. So we get licensed therapists, we get licensed social workers, people who've had actual training in mental health issues. And so we don't just, it'd be nice, because it wouldn't cost us as much, and it would be easier to find them, because finding bilingual, bicultural professionals to do this work is very, very challenging. But we have 3 of them, and we're really excited that we have them. So so it's twice a month for our regular support group, and we have men too. We invite the men to come. We want them to be there. They also need emotional support, and so we have family members show up as well. Wow. The youngest we ever had was 5 years old. Oh. She was a little girl. Her mama had breast cancer, and we worked with her because she thought that kissing her mom made her mom's hair fall out, and so she wouldn't kiss her anymore. So we helped the little girl get through that and understand that, and then we also incubate a support group for parents with kids with cancer.
Oh, wow!
So we're really trying to address all of the issues that impact Latinos around issues of cancer. If we had $1 million, we could probably do 10 times as much. But we do what we can with what we got.
Yes, but it definitely does become a family issue.
It is a family issue.
And
it
Isabel,
always impacts everybody.
You mentioned a partnership with Georgetown. Are there any organizations that you partner with?
We work with universities. I am adamant that we're going to be engaged in research at one level or the other. We partner with the Gardner Clinic because we move the women that we want screened from our education program into screening, so we partner with them. We partner obviously with Sobrato Cancer Center because that's where we navigate the cancer patients. In developing one of our bingo games, we worked with Zero Breast Cancer and Breast Cancer Fund, who are specialists around environmental issues. We worked with, who else did we work with? I'm having one of my chemo moments, so I'll have to think about it. But we have worked with a lot of organizations, and we bring a lot of promotoras from different organizations to our summit.
And how can people from the community get involved with Latinas Contra Cancer?
Well, first of all, if you need to look, you can look us up on the web. So you can just put in, Google us at Latinas and Cancer, and we'll come up, Latinas Contra Cancer. You can come into our offices. We're right down the street from the studios on Julian and Market Street. People can help assemble stuff for our bingos. They can maybe help us do some fundraising. They can support some of our patients who might need rides to things. There's all kinds of ways they can help us, but we need consistent help. So we'd love to see the community come out and support us.
Yes, absolutely. It's a very
and we've got students who come and, we work with the colleges to do internships, so yeah.
That's great, and because awareness is key for Latinas Contra Cancer.
Yeah, absolutely, and we like since we serve Spanish-speaking low income, we'd really like our English-speaking professional community to come out and support it, because it could be their abuelo or their mother or their sister, and they need to be cognizant too of the issues for themselves as well as for their families.
Yes. Isabel, thank you very much for joining us in Latino Focus
It's a pleasure
today.
to be here. Thank you for letting me talk on and on and on.
Next, we will show you how to make an arepa with Chef Fernando Lezama.
Voy a dar una breve explicación para las personas que nos están viendo de cómo se hace de la arepa después que ya hiciste la masa. La masa consiste en agua, harina de maíz y un poquito de sal y aceite. Después que ya la tienes amasada con esta consistencia, lo único que necesitas es hacer una bolita de masa y te humedeces un poquito la palma de las manos de esta manera y vas haciendo como aplaudiendo una arepa circular. La redondeas así de esta manera y la colocas. Tomas otro poco de masa y haces otra bolita así de la misma manera que la primera, una bolita como para jugar béisbol, y te humedeces las manos, las palmas de la mano y comienzas a darle forma, a moldearla de esta manera, así, y la redondeas para que quede bonita y presentable, y de esta manera sucesivamente puedes hacer miles y miles de arepas que después las pones en la mesa y las comienzas a rellenar. Gracias por escuchar mi explicación de esta tarde. Gracias.
Now, let's present our Art to Life segment with invited guest Isabel Flores, a contemporary Latino artist who resides here in San Jose.
My passion started 10 years ago. The first gallery they gave me my first show was Work San Jose, which is in downtown San Jose. They've been, this nonprofit been in business for almost, from 1960 until now. I'm being with the gallery for the same reason, because they gave me my very first show. I've been with the gallery for almost 6 years as a volunteer, part of the board, and also I trying to recruit new artists to give you the same experience that they gave it to me. The reason I choose to be contemporary art because it's more it's more expressive. It's more colorful. You think outside the box. You're not just concentrating in one specific area. I do recycle. I do experiment with different clays, different paintings. I incorporate paintings with objects, and the objects become something else. So I really love to experimenting, and the contemporary art is pretty much experimenting what is it's not in the book, like everybody said, like you have to like follow the rules. Contemporary art is more like bigger and broader and just more expressive for me. I'm Latino. I can use my own culture, which is flowers, is colorful, it's a lot of like birds and all the stuff that we as Mexican we use all the time. But my main objective will be just to show everybody like we're not just talking in one area. We can do I can do whatever I want and show it to everybody. I want to do art, I want to get paid for it, and I want to move forward. My biggest challenge will be kind of like being a Latino and being from Mexico, having a huge accent. It just like people see you differently. People see you like, I do art and they expect me to do the traditional art, and I just show it to them like, this is what I can do, this is what I can do. My disadvantage is like, oh, I like it, but you're a Latino, I don't know about that. And it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't say, they don't say it directly, but I feel it. Your art is not Mexican enough to be in this gallery. And I was like, what is going on here? So I'm discriminated from one side and I'm discriminated from the other side. So what am I? Am I a Latino? But I don't know what I'm going. So that's one of my biggest disappointments. But I've kind of like find myself and trying to embrace myself and say, you know what? Not a lot of people will like my art. I'm gonna push it. I'm gonna push it hard. I'm gonna do my best for them to like me, and just see what happens. And I've been working so hard for the past 5 years. Is the hardest that I've been working, and I've been impressing a lot of people. Just in any kind of race, any kind of culture, they just recognize me as an artist, not as a Mexican artist, just as an artist. Just like I am Tulio Flores. Not like they see me like, oh, you're Latino. No, Tulio Flores. So that's my big accomplishment, that I mean they just recognize me as me. My goal is just to keep pushing hard and to keep working hard and to keep dreaming. That's what I say. I'm gonna dream hard, and that's the bottom line.
Thank you for supporting Latino Focus. And remember that in each community there is beauty and strength. Gracias, and see you next time.